Welcome back to another episode of Franklin Covey's twice weekly podcast on leadership with Scott Miller, where on Tuesdays and Fridays now for 6 years, close to 425 episodes, we shine our spotlight onto people that we admire, that we respect, that we can learn from their journeys to make you a better leader. Franklin Covey, of course, the world's most trusted leadership firm, co-founded by Stephen R. Covey, who wrote the incomparably impactful book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This book has been translated into nearly 70 languages and has sold 60 million copies. And on the back of Dr. Covey's principles, we continue to help thousands of organizations around the world develop better leaders and create better cultures and build trust and execution around their top priorities. Today, our guest in service of that mission is the author, the coach, the speaker, the inspirer, the transition figure, Trent Shelton. This is his second appearance in 6 years on our podcast. He was one of the first couple hundred interviewees, and I think episode maybe 140 or so, about 4 years ago, and I fell in love with his most recent book titled Protect Your Peace, 9 Unapologetic Principles for Thriving in a Chaotic World. Trent Shelton, welcome back to On Leadership.
Scott, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. It's always good to be back on your show.
Trent, that is very gracious of you. Honored to have you back. You are one of the most multifaceted people I've met in terms of you are an entrepreneur, you are an athlete. Many people know you as a former NFL player. We'll talk about that in just a moment. You have gone on to constantly reinvent your brand, your communication. You are a communication expert. I believe you actually are, your degree is in communication, and you continue to inspire countless millions of people through your own triumphs, through tragedies, through setbacks, through momentum. And so today I am excited to jump into your most recent book, who, although hardcover is out now, releasing soon in audio version. Before we go there, Trent, I'm going to ask you to indulge me for a moment because I know you as a renowned speaker, coach, and influencer. Many people know you as a professional athlete. I know that you often refer to the NFL as not for long, but I would love to have you retell the story that has been kind of stuck in my mind for the last 4 years about your transition. I believe you played for the Colts and the Washington Redskins, now renamed, and I think you were on your way to be recruited with the Seahawks. Would you take your time and retell the story of how that went down and then tease out the principle that everybody can learn from that's not in the NFL?
Yeah, oh man. That time of my life was definitely the hardest time of my life. And so it was my second year in the NFL, 2008. I had already, got released from the Colts the year before. So at that point in my life, I would probably have been released maybe 5 or 6 times from the Colts. So I'm with the Seahawks, and I'm currently released. I was there, preseason, there early in the season, but, it's a numbers game. At least that's what they say. And I was at home. I was in Dallas. And I live in Fort Worth. So if you're from Dallas, Fort Worth, you know the difference, right? It's like a 45-minute drive in between the two cities. So I'm in Dallas having lunch with one of my friends, and I get a call on my cell phone. My cell phone's always on because I know at any moment a team can call. My agent texts me first and said, "Hey, your phone's about to ring." So I'm like, yes. My phone rings, the 206 number. Seattle Seahawks call me, answer the phone and say, "Hey, Trent, we want to bring you back. We need you. We're going to put you back on the practice squad, hopefully. Active roster pretty soon." It's like, "Hey, can you come to the airport right now?" And I was like, well, I believe it was a Monday. And so Tuesdays are days off in the NFL. And I said, "Hey, well, I'm out to eat in Dallas. It's kind of late. Can I just come tomorrow?" And they're like, "Hey, nah, there's a flight that leaves tonight, like 10 p.m. You have enough time. Just get your bags. Just come. You can get the rest of your stuff later." So, of course, I couldn't argue. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I didn't finish my food, hop in my car. I drive about 40 minutes to my parents' house, pack my bags, a single bag, head to the airport. And at this moment, I'm excited. So I'm texting all my friends. I'm back. I'm texting my friends in Seattle, my teammates. Hey, they brought me back. The group text messages with the receivers. Everybody's excited. So we built the bond. And I get on Facebook and I tell the world. I drive to DFW Airport, which is about 30 minutes. And I get to the gate, check in, everything. Get to the gate, and my phone rings. And I look back down at the 206 number. So I'm thinking, okay, the Seahawks are calling me back. They must want to check and see if I really got on the plane. So I'm like, okay, cool. I pick up the phone and I say, hello. And he said, hey, Trent, have you left yet? And I said, actually, I'm about to get on the plane right now. So I'll see you guys soon. They're like, wait. Well, we had a situation happen. We need to bring a guy back. And basically, we need your roster spot. So we've changed our mind. We're not going to bring you in. And at that moment, Scott, I thought it was a prank. Like, I wish it was a prank. And at that moment, I felt the lowest I felt in my life because that was just an emotional roller coaster of emotions that I'm having to deal with. And this is like, again, the 8th or 9th time that I got cut in a few years. And that was the moment where it taught me, which I think can about everybody, about emotional, resilience and resistance, but also agility. Being able to ride the ups and downs, being able to not let a moment define your life, being able to not let rejection define your life and control your mindset. And at that moment, I'm gonna be honest with you, Scott, it did. I felt less than, I felt like I wasn't worth anything, but I went back to my house, and at that time I started doing mindset work, and I started just to put some principles in place, focus on what you can control, mind, body, and soul. And to be real with you, that's what started rehab time. That's what started me speaking and me writing, me making videos, was that moment right there that I said, you know what, I'm gonna put all this pain, all this stress into something productive.
Trent, it sounds like a cliche, but it's such a great reminder of sometimes a disappointment turns into an appointment. Now, most of us have not had an NFL team call us at the gate saying, we changed our mind. I mean, your vulnerability is so refreshing. You texted your friends, you'd called your teammates, you'd posted it on social. This was and then it was, this rug very publicly is yanked out from under you, and you get back in your car and you drive back home to your parents' home where you're living. And it was, a pretty difficult time for you, as you've written about in the coming, weeks and months or such. I want you to remind everybody, now you're, many years on this side of that. We'll talk about rehab time in a second here. What do you want people to be reminded about that low point? From the time that you were driving home, going back to your car, back to your parents' house, everybody has that experience, whether it was a job offer rescinded, it was a career eliminated, it was a relationship that may have been eliminated, lost in your life. Remind people how to manage the difficult disappointment that everyone has in their life.
Yeah, I think it's a question, Scott, you have to ask yourself. And I've learned this over the years. It was hard at first. But the question I ask myself is, how is this going to use me? How am I going to use this? How is this going to build me? How is this going to better my life? And the great thing about life, Scott, and sometimes it's hard to realize this, is that you're in control of your perspective. You're in control of the meaning. So at that moment, I could say, it means that my NFL career is over, which was pretty much true. Or it can mean, you know what, maybe this part of my life is over, but now my purpose, now the next chapter, now what's really meant for my life is about to begin. I think life has this unique way of, especially in disappointments, having us crop just on the moment, right? And it makes us forget about the bigger picture. We focus so much on the moment, we focus so much on the loss, we focus so much on the rejection. Like you said, rejection is redirection to set your life up for something better. But if you're focused just on that, it's hard to see it. So my advice to everybody is, don't allow the moment to make you no longer focus on the bigger picture, right? There's a bigger picture than the pain. There's a bigger picture than the setback. And if you look at any point of your life, Scott, like, our biggest growth moments came from our biggest pain moments, like facts.
Absolutely.
And so I'm always thinking like that in my life. What is this trying to teach me? How can I use this? And also, how am I going to respond to this to make sure this builds me and it doesn't break me?
Rejection is just redirection. Trent, your current book is called Protect Your Peace, 9 Unapologetic Principles for Thriving in a Chaotic World. In a moment, I'm going to have you talk about 3 or 4 of these principles. You actually have 9 principles, organized in 3 categories: protect your energy, protect your mind, protect your soul. However, you open, first of all, one of your hallmarks is you are one of the most authentic, vulnerable people on the public arena that I have ever met. You have a gift of teaching through your own setbacks, through your own rejections, and through your own triumphs even. And if people aren't following you and listening and reading your books, they're missing out. You open this book and you share a very humbling experience. I think it was about 9 years ago, you were on a 32-city tour. In fact, your team packed every single audience without using a big, ticket-selling consulting service. You're on this booked-out tour, and you get to a particular city, and something happens. I'm not even sure you mentioned, maybe it was San Francisco or such. Talk about, recreate that, because there is a really great lesson to be taught in what happened just outside the theater. Retell this story.
Absolutely, yes. 32 cities tour, and I was at a place of burnout, and we're in the middle of a tour. You can't just quit, you can't just give up. And there were things in my team that weren't going right, decisions that I should have made that I wasn't making because I just felt responsible for everybody. So I was really just smiling for the camera, down behind the scenes. I was just masking what I was going through. And San Francisco was the breaking point for me. I mustered up the strength backstage and I said, God, just give me strength to, perform, give me strength to inspire. And so it was crazy because everybody out in the audience had no idea. Everybody was regular scheduled program. They were inspired, they were clapping. I get off stage and I'm broken, man. So I tell my team, hey, y'all go take care of everything. Just give me some time. And it was a theater. So it's kind of like a movie. They had this alleyway. And I walked back in the alleyway because I didn't want anybody to see me crying, anybody to see me down. And I go back in this alleyway and I'm bawling. I'm asking God, like, man, like it's supposed to feel better than this. This blessing is becoming my burden. Like this gift is now becoming a weight that's almost unbearable to carry. And as I'm going through this process mentally, internally, this figure starts to walk down the alley. And, it's where the sun was shining, it was hard for me to see. But as this person got closer, I noticed that it was a homeless man, like I would assume. And he comes to me and says, hey, he says, you're the guy that everybody's here to see because, my name's on the marquee, my pictures are out there. And I was like, yeah, my name is Trent. And he saw the sadness in my eyes. I just tried to wipe my tears. And he said, wow, it must be really hard to be you. And I look at him like, why do you say that? And he said, actually, I feel sorry, to be you. And at that point, I'm getting kind of offensive. Like, man, you don't know me. He said, but before you get offensive, he said, I see how you are back here. Everybody out in the front, I just walked back from over there. They're talking about you, how much they love you, how much it was a great event, but you seem empty. So what I did, Scott, I didn't want to carry the conversation on, just to be real. So I reach in my pocket, try to give him a $100 bill to push him on about his way. He says, oh, no, I don't need that. He says, don't feel sorry for me. Again, I feel sorry for you. He said, it may seem like I have nothing on the outside, but on the inside, I have everything because I have peace. He said, you, man, it gives me chills saying this. He said, you, it looks like you have everything. Everybody loves you, right? You're known. But I can tell right now on the inside, you have nothing because you don't have peace. And from that conversation, Scott, I left. I went down to the Golden Gate Bridge, that whole little area. I sat out there, and I made a decision to say, I'm going to make sure for the rest of my life that peace is my priority. And so that's where those words, protect your peace, came from, and it became a real thing for me because you can have everything in the world. If you don't have peace, you're not going to enjoy your life. And so I said, I'd rather sacrifice the things of the world, but I'm not sacrificing my peace anymore.
Trent, this may not be a word that's commonly associated with you in your book, but I found your book lovely. I really enjoyed it. And I'm going to push on a couple of principles, A, because I know you can handle it, and I know you are a master teacher. So I'm going to skip around for a little bit. In your book, which is written fantastic, it's actually written for, I think, modern times. Busy people, shorter attention spans, really visually illustrated well, a couple of huge reminders and call-outs. On one page, you say, if it isn't a hell yeah for me, then it's a hell no. And I'm going to push on you for a moment because, like you, I spend a lot of my time with, celebrities and very influential people. By the time you've gotten to this podcast, you've made it, right? And so It seems to me, Trent, isn't it easier for people who have made it to say, oh, if it isn't a hell yeah, then it's a hell no, because all of us had to say yes to things that maybe didn't pay as well as they do now, or maybe they weren't as clear or as great for our brand. I'm gonna guess there were times when you said, oh, hell yes to everything because there was no hell, there was no greater purpose. Talk to the person right now who can't relate to the fact that they even have the ability to say hell no because there aren't any hell yes coming their way. Maybe like rewind a couple of years ago when you weren't as renowned and as able to demand, the respect you can now. You can see my point is not everybody's in a position to say hell yes or even to say hell no.
Yeah, and I think, Scott, you hit the nail on the head. If you're listening to this right now, you're in a season of, I call grind, a season of building. Yeah, you got to say yes more. It's just part of the process, it's part of the journey. But ultimately, what you're going to see is that sometimes we say yes to average. We say yes to the things that causes more stress. I'm a big believer in we recruit stress. We say yes to opportunities that seem okay. And sometimes, yes, you have to make that sacrifice. But the thing that I always tell people and what I learned in my life is, what am I not willing to sacrifice? I had to say that hell yeah and hell no thing came from my kids. So with Tristan, I just had a big podcast last year, a huge podcast opportunity. And literally Tristan had his first 8th grade basketball game. And when they offered me to come on the podcast, it was the same day. And it was an easy hell no for me. And most people, even the podcaster said, man, that's crazy because most people would miss that. And I said, well, there's another opportunity for me to do a podcast. There's not another opportunity for me to come to my son's 8th grade basketball game start of the season. So for me, it's the principles and values on what I'm not willing to sacrifice that helps me say that. Again, peace for myself is the priority. It's where I make decisions from. So yeah, you got to go through some moments in your life, in your grind, in your journey where you got to say, yeah, the things I really don't want to say yeah to, but what you're going to realize is that you're not going to have fulfillment. And so I would say, if I'm you, write a list of things down that are non-negotiable. Write a list of things down where you say, you know what, I want to have more peace in my life. I want to have more, less stress in my life. And you have to be willing to sacrifice certain things. And Scott, I'll end with this on this. I have a huge level of trust in myself. And I know everybody might not be here, but even starting off, I said a lot of no's to things that didn't align with my values, my principles, and my morals. I said a lot of things that I was like, I don't want to do this because I know for myself, that's not something I want to be a part of. And people looked at me crazy. But I trust myself enough with my work ethic, with my commitment, with my consistency, with my dedication, that another opportunity will come. And I do believe this is true, and I'll leave with this quote. The opportunities that are meant for your life won't miss your life. And I really believe that. And that's just the principle that I live by that's helped me protect my peace by saying hell no to some things that even seem average or even great at times.
Trent, I'm going to ask you to go a little bit deeper on that because I like that phrase you used about, trusting yourself, having trust in yourself. And one aspect, it seems almost like a throwaway tagline, but it's obviously a guiding principle. You have learned, you've grown to trust in yourself. You talked about work ethic and discipline. For someone who's wrestling with, what does that mean? How do I trust in myself? I've made some bad decisions, or I don't know if I'm that responsible. How does someone build trust in themselves?
Yeah, you keep the promises you make to yourself. And I know that seems cliche. We live in a world where everybody wants to prove it to everybody else. I'm doing it for everybody else. I'm proving my haters wrong. That's the wrong mindset. It all starts with you. You got to prove it to yourself. Me going to work out is me proving that I'm worth my health. Me going to execute on a business idea is me proving that, my creativity is special. And so I'm always attacking with that mindset because what that does is it builds the trust within yourself. This has been 15 years on this journey. And the reason I trust myself is because I failed at times. The reason I trust myself because I've stumbled at times. But also, I've learned through all of those things. I have ideas that seem great that I tried to execute and they were terrible, but it taught me lessons within that. And so when you realize that life is a marathon, when you realize that in life that there's no strikeout in life until your final swing, you can keep swinging. Sometimes you miss it, sometimes you bunt it, sometimes you hit a pop out, but sometimes you hit home runs. And I do believe and trust that the more you swing the bat, the more you really work on your routines and your rituals and all the things that you do every single day, you build this level of trust. And I've learned as an athlete, right? I got great at running routes, not because I was born great. It's because I ran routes and I failed at it, I messed up, and I learned how to master that craft. And I think it's the same thing with your emotional agility, with your emotional resilience, and also with your dedication and consistency and all those things emotionally that you have to be able to build over time by going through the ups and downs.
Trent, your current book is called Protect Your Peace. It's really organized into 3 sections: protect your energy, protect your mind, protect your soul. And within each of these 3 categories are 3 principles. The 3 principles that align with protect your energy are set boundaries, disconnect often, and demand your worth. The 3 principles that align with protect your mind are trust your vision, guard your focus, and shift your perspective. And then the last 3 principles that align with the 3rd section, protect your soul, are simplify happiness, we're going to go there in a minute, align internally, and live in fulfillment. One of the insights you share in your book is you tell people how to treat you by what you accept.
Yeah.
This is hard for many of us who were raised in families, whether it is our epigenetics, whether it's our origin story, whether it was the culture of how our parents were brought up by their parents, where we are people pleasers, where we don't know how to say no, where we crave people's acceptance, we're obsessed with their opinion of us. This is not, I think, a small segment of humanity, especially in the Western culture. Riff on the idea that you tell people how to treat you by what you accept.
Yeah, you set the tone for your life. I believe, you're in control of 2 things in life: what you give and what you accept, right? Nobody can control and stop you from giving anything. You can say anything, do anything, and also what you accept. People can try to make you accept something, but ultimately, nothing can control your life without your permission. And that's something I have to tell myself, am I allowing this, or is somebody forcing this on me? Now, unless somebody put a gun to your head, that's a whole different story. But for most of us, we give permission to certain things that we know we shouldn't accept in our life. And the more you accept it, the more you're telling people, this is my standard. The more you're telling people, this is what I'm willing to allow. And the truth that I always impart on people is that what you allow is what you will continue. And a lot of us, it's hard because we're triple Ps, professional people pleasers. I'm in that same boat, right? We want to make everybody happy. We want to make everybody love us. We don't want to let people down. We feel guilty. We're saying yes to ourselves. And the thing that has really helped me is I have a perspective, and if you don't have a family, there's other things like you can really think about mindset-wise. But for me, my family is important. And I have to be the best man, the best father I can be. And if I'm saying yes to everything, if I'm, because I don't want to let people down, because I don't want to seem cold-hearted or whatever it may be, I'm not going to be the best version for my kids. I'm not going to be the best version for my team. I'm not going to be the best version for my wife. And to me, those things are more priority than all these other things. And, I have a quote, Scott, and I'll leave with this one. Like, I wrote this in a spoken word in 2016 because I just got tired of being a people pleaser. And the first line is, the first step to being unhappy is trying to please everyone else. It's mission impossible. Your perfection might be good for someone, but that same perfection is going to be imperfection to someone else. And that's how you drive yourself crazy. So you have to be okay with everybody not agreeing with you, everybody not liking you, but you being true to yourself. You deserve that yes more than anything else. You deserve that yes to yourself.
This is why you are in such demand as a keynote speaker. One of your 9 unapologetic principles that aligns with protect your mind, you call trust your vision. It's principle number 4. And the quote in the book is, God didn't give them the vision, so stop expecting them to see it. This is my favorite page in the entire book. I want you I want to just have you riff on this, because this is something that everyone is afflicted with, whether it is your side hustle, it's your passion, it's a business that no one believes in but you do. Talk about how important it is to recognize not everybody's going to get your vision. God didn't give it to them. He gave it to you.
Scott, I can illustrate this really good. So common sense, right? I'm wearing contacts right now. I believe you have glasses too, right? When we go to the optometrist gives us a prescription, right? We go through all these tests. He gives us, or she gives us, a prescription that's uniquely designed for us. And What would be wild is that if we had our glasses, right, that were uniquely designed for us, and we took off our glasses and we gave it to our friend, we gave it to our spouse, we gave it to whoever, they put it on our glasses and they're gonna put them on and say, man, I can't see anything, you're blind. You wouldn't be like, well, is something wrong with me? You'd be like, no, those are my glasses, my prescription. These are for me. And so how I relate that to life's vision is that I believe God, your creator, whatever you believe in, has given you a vision that's been uniquely prescribed to you, right? The ultimate optometrist that's been given to you. What a lot of us do is that we have this vision that nobody's going to understand. Nobody's really going to see it. But what we do is we take off our life glasses and say, look, I want to start this business, or I want to, do this thing. I want to be a speaker. What I did, and I gave it to my friends. I gave it to the people closest to me that didn't have any knowledge in the industry I was trying to be successful in. I got to add that because sometimes we take advice from people who have never been successful at what we're trying to achieve. Mm-hmm. And what I did was I gave them my vision. They said, Trent, your past is too bad, bro. Like, you're an introvert. You don't even have business capability. You don't have the relationships. So instead of saying, okay, well, you're not meant to see my vision because this hasn't been prescribed to you. What I did at that time, I didn't put my glasses back on. I believed what they saw, and I was starting to live my life unclear. And I think a lot of people do that. You go to the people closest to you, expect them to see what's been given to you. And when they don't see it, you don't just say, oh, it's not meant for you to see it. Give me my glasses back. I'm going to keep living my vision. A lot of people have never put their glasses back on based upon somebody's opinion, and they're living with an unclear life or unclear vision. So I would just challenge everybody. Your glasses are for you. The prescription is for you. The vision is for you. Everybody won't see it until you accomplish it. So keep moving forward.
You are an insanely powerful communicator. I want to spend our next 3 minutes with a quick speed round. No wrong answer, first thing that comes to mind, but take a breath each time and draw upon this enormous reservoir of wisdom you have. The happiest people have what in common?
The healthiest perspective.
What does that mean?
When I look at people that are happy, the thing that I see is that their perspective is healthy. I talk about that in the book, Shift Your Perspective. Your perspective can either be your prison or your power. Yeah. A prison perspective sees everything working against you. You see all your sadness. A healthy perspective says, you know what? This is tough, but this is building me. And so the happiest people, they always see the best in everything. They have the healthiest perspectives.
I'm going to use this word very intentionally. The most influential people have what in common? Not wealthiest, not most successful, the most influential people do what consistently?
I would say they have the most transparency.
Give me some more on that.
And what I mean by that, if you're going to be influential and impactful, you have to have transparency. I believe transparency leads to your transformation. I believe transparency leads to other people's transformation. It's kind of what you said about me, Sky, right? Me being open and real and vulnerable. I'm influential because people can see their story inside of me. People can see a version of themselves inside of me, whether it's current or whether it's past. And so I believe you inspire people and impact people and you influence people when you allow yourself to be relatable.
What are the habits that people with the most peace repeat?
One is they disconnect often.
Okay.
2, they live in fulfillment. Those are in, I'm going to say 3, and these are from the book. They simplify happiness.
What does it mean to live in fulfillment?
Yeah. So I believe fulfillment is this: doing what you love with who you love. I don't believe a bank account, I don't believe a number on social media can fulfill you. I think we all know that. We see people that in their lives when they have everything. Fulfillment is simply being happy, having peace in your life. And the art of fulfillment works off of 2 things, right? How much time you are spending with the things that matter most to you. Doing what you love, right? Doing things that you have fun with, around people you have fun with. And me talking to my grandmothers and grandfathers that are no longer here, They told me the secret of life is continue doing what you love with who you love and do it as much as you can and you'll live a fulfilled life.
Trent, there are a lot of people around the world right now that are leaning in, parked in their car, at the gym, in their home office, wherever they are that are listening. Remind us what rehab time is about.
You know, rehab time is about putting a strength into a weakness, whatever that weakness is. And I would like to even say area of improvement. Things in your life, mind, body, and soul, where you're saying, you know what? I'm a little bit injured in this area. I'm a little bit hurt in this area. I want to improve this area. So I'm going to work on this. And I'm going to go to rehab, mind, body, and soul. I'm going to go through this journey of putting the strength back into this area of improvement. And I'm going to come back better than even when I was before I got hurt. You know, rehab is a process, but it's a process worth taking because when you do it right, you'll be better and you'll be stronger.
Trent, I am so honored you came back on. You have a lot of ways you could spend your time. You've said no to podcast. I'm glad this taping date was not on your son's basketball date. Your current book is Protect Your Peace, 9 Unapologetic Principles for Thriving in a Chaotic World. Looking forward to having you back on in 4 years or less. What is next for you? Why will you be coming back on to our podcast, hopefully in 4 years or less?
Well, in 4 years or less, I know I'll have a new book out at that time because there's some things I definitely want to talk about still.
Yep.
I don't want to give the title out right now, but I'm really moving towards really helping people live in accountability and ownership over their life. And so that's kind of the next phase for me, continuing to speak, continuing to impact, continuing to elevate, and continuing to trust the journey that's for my life. So I know when I get there about 2 or 3 years, I have something worth sharing for you, man.
Look for our email with that invitation. You have a standing invite here on our podcast. Thank you. You're a class act, my friend.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
And we'll see you back here next week for a new conversation on leadership.